Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Build Your Best Life. I'm Coach Deborah, and I am super excited to be here with you today because you could have been anywhere else, but you decided to join us. And my special guest tonight, Sean Smith from Texas. How are you, Sean?
I am great and so glad to be here with you.
Thank you so much for joining. So, everybody, come on in, get your notepads. Got a real hot topic for you this evening. Make sure that you like, comment, and share with someone. Good evening, Agnes and Dan. Thank you for tuning in. We are going to get started. But as young people go through life, sometimes they don't have parents. They may come from a single parent home, or they may have both parents. Even though parents may be in the home, they may not be present. So sometimes our young people are moving around, trying to maneuver through life, and they don't know what they don't know. So what happens to them if they don't have anyone to guide them or lead them? Well, it takes someone else, someone from the village. What about an uncle? How awesome is that? But tonight we're going to be talking about the role of an uncle, standing in the gap. So if you can have someone standing in the gap for you, that is an amazing thing. So Sean, again, welcome back to Build Your Best Life. This is not your first time here, so we are glad to have you back. But please share a little bit about yourself and explain why you think it is essential to be an involved uncle.
Well, once again, thank you very much for having me. It is a pleasure and an honor just to come and share with everybody. Uh, when I talked about this, going through this topic in terms of why it's important to be a involved uncle, the first thing I always do is, you go biblical. And if you go biblical, uncles are really in the Bible were a foundation of so many of our Bible heroes. Uh, for example, Abraham, he had his he was an uncle because his nephew was Lot. You had Samuel with his uncle, David with his uncle Jonathan, and Esther. Probably one of the most famous uncles biblically is Esther and Mordecai. So
Mm.
uncles have always been in the background of biblical stories, uh, just standing in the gap for not just their nieces or nephews, but for their families. I think that's what it all comes down to, the family. For one thing in terms of importance being uh, an uncle, you know, your family name, your niece or your nephew is carrying that family name. So if that parent isn't there, who better to an uncle or an aunt to help you understand what your family name is all about? Hey, for me growing up, I'm a Smith from the Bahamas, Nassau. Uh, Whenever I tell people in the Bahamas, whenever you say your name, people ask you where you're from, and
Mm.
where you're from tells them who you are. And so for me, I'm Sean Smith from Grantstown or Farm Road, and they automatically that eyebrow go up, or they start going through their memory banking. So who's your people?
Mhm.
Turkey and jeans. Oh, so who's your daddy? I know those boys. Who's your daddy? Chef. Oh, Chef is your daddy. Sammy's your daddy. So I couldn't go nowhere without people knowing who I was. And, you know, my uncles played a very pivotal role in my life. Even though my dad was there, but my uncles still were there when he wasn't there, and so carrying on that family name and them supporting me was very important in who I am. And so being involved and trying to pass the baton on to my nieces and nephews is so important to just stand and be involved in their lives.
That's awesome. Yes. Think about, you mentioned in the Bible, Abraham and him taking Lot up under his wing and guiding him and showing him the ropes. So, that's very impressionable.
Yeah, I mean, and think about it in that story. Lot was saved because from Sodom and Gomorrah. And so if it wasn't for his uncle and his relationship with God, where was Lot going to be? So when you start to peel the onion layer back, you kind of see where uncles played a very important role in generational in people's life for generations. uh, Uncles have always been my uncles have always been a safe space.
Mm.
I had an uncle, uh, and I could go to him with anything and say, hey, I did this, and what do you think? Or I want to do this, what do you think? And so just having that safe place or that safe person to go to kind of talk to and know that it's not going to go anywhere, and he is going to give me sound advice because he wants the best for me. you know uh,
Right.
Very important.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you. All right. Well, what does it mean to stand in the gap when you're standing in the gap for someone?
Standing in the gap, is a big thing. It goes back to that village. you know when you think about it, no one is an island. No one person can do anything. It takes everyone to kind of get stuff done. No one walks alone. So when you think you're out there by yourself, you're not. So you and other people are going through, if not the same things. You're still a traveler through this journey called life. And thirdly, nobody gets to where they're to the top or where they're trying to go to by themselves. Uh, I had a lot of people who were were praying for me, praying with me, and just encouraging me. And so for that reason, I am where I am and still chugging along. So it's important that going back to the question in terms of the village and standing in a gap. You know, it's so important to have people around you to help you through this thing we call life.
Yes. Yes, it is. Okay, can you give me three characteristics that someone who is standing in the gap needs to have in order to be effective?
I think the first thing is, when you're standing in the gap, you need to be able to listen. Uh, I have an uncle who always would tell me that you have two ears and one mouth. So you need to listen more than you speak sometimes. Uh, Listening is I think it's a lost art because everyone wants to talk, everyone wants to share their opinion, everyone have an idea. But if you're talking, you can't hear what the person is saying, and
Right.
especially if you're in your feelings for whatever reason, you can't hear people. So very important, you have to listen. Uh, my uncles, they listen to me. They would listen and active listening. You know, when I would say something, they'd be like, "Well, how did it make you feel?" Or they'll ask me a probing question. If I ask a question that they think that or they thought that was he ain't on it today. So I'd be like, well, they're actually a probing question because you could see it on their face, kind of like, really, you really asked me that question? But no, active. When you listen, it has to be active. It has to kind of, you have to get into probing questions and kind of really trying to understand what a person is saying. So sometimes someone might say something and you might be thinking it's one way, but they're saying it's they're thinking something else. So it is you really have to actively listen, actively
Mhm.
listen, and really and truly too, if you listen more times than often, people will tell you who they are.
Right.
People will tell you who they are if you listen. So to me, that's a big quality that someone really need to have. Listening,
Right.
active listening. A next quality I would say is character. You know, you have to have some type of character about yourself because children and not just children, but people more so they hear what you say, but they want to see your actions behind your words. You can say that you're a Christian every day, all day, from the top of the mountain. But if you're not
Mhm.
showing love, then what type of Christian are you? And
Right.
and that can go into any areas. Oh, I'm a master plumber, but you get to a job and someone is standing watching you and they're like, you sure you're a plumber? But you gotta have some character about yourself because people are more so watching more than they're listening in some regards. Because we're in such a rapid society nowadays, everything is just now. Everything is just so constant. Everything is always flowing. You know, but really and truly, people who a friend of mine used to say, if you have any salt, if you know your way, if you're let me make sure I'm phrasing it right. Let me quote him. If you weigh your way in salt, you know, you'll be able to listen effectively, and then you have character, which is more your action behind something, behind who you are, your action. You know, so listen and character. Character being your foundation, your root. In the Bahamas, we have a saying: you can be the worst of the worst person, but if you have a character, if your character speaks for you, people will go to bat for you. You know something, and it's crazy. They'll be like, you know something, uh, I don't like him, but he's pretty honest. I don't like him. He ain't my cup of tea, but he's not a liar. He can tell you the truth. I don't
Right.
like him, but you know something, he's good people. I don't like him. He's not my cup of tea, but his character speaks for him. So if you have character, because and for the most part, when you talk about children, children watch you more than they listen to you.
That's right.
Children watch what you do. People and people more so, you know, is an old saying in the Bahamas, if you treat him like that, how you gonna treat me? If you treat someone that a stranger like that and I'm your family, how you gonna treat me? Or vice versa. If you treat a family like that in that manner, or speak to someone like that, how you gonna speak to me? So people always kind of watch what you do in terms of, and not so much what you say, but what you do, because your character and your action speaks louder than sometimes your words. So character and definitely listening. Next characteristic I think people should have when you're being being out there is living what you preach. Living what you preach. That goes back to your character. I can't tell you, come off that wall, but I'm on the same wall. I gotta live what I preach.
Right.
And if I'm preaching something, then I gotta go ahead and walk. Now, sometimes you might fall in your walk, but that's why you have people around you. That's why you have that village to be there for you and to kind of help stand you up and help you during that walk. Uh, like I said earlier, no one walks alone, and so practicing what you preach is hard. It's not easy. It's hard, but having a village around you, having people around you to help you during that time, is essential. You know, no one person is an island.
Yeah. Those are three good ones. Listen, be able to listen, character, and living what you preach. And that character, you are so right. That's just like if someone is accused incorrectly, somebody murdered someone, and they think, oh, well, this guy did it. But he has so many people to come to his defense as character witnesses and say, no, not if you had said anybody else.
Yeah,
Okay, not this guy. He wouldn't hurt an ant. I think you got the wrong person.
yeah.
What proof do you have that they did it? Your character will take you a long way.
I was in our youth group in church. I was one of the leaders, and I had some guys outside. They got sent to youth group, but teenage boys, they were outside, and they were just, I mean, they were just being noisy while youth group was going on. And I got so riled up, and I went outside and I grabbed one guy and I threw him against the wall, and I was like, "Yo, stop making noise!" Yeah, and I went off and I walked back inside, and a senior guy who was older than me, he's like, that ain't his character. He's like, wait a minute. 2 minutes, I walk back out, and I was like, Ben, I'm sorry. And him and the other guys, they just started laughing. And I'm like, what do you? And he's like, yeah, Dwayne just said that that's not your character. You're gonna come and apologize. And just like he said, I went and apologized. I was just frustrated, but that was in my character. So really and truly, you have to just you have to have that character. That character can carry you a long way through life. You know,
Yes. If you just joined us, we are talking about the role of an uncle. So thank you for tuning in. And hi, Deacon Holmes. Thank you for tuning in this evening. So as we talk about a little bit more, why is it important for young males to have a male figure who is present, but they're there without judging them? Why is that so important?
I think it's important because mm, we as men we mature we learn, and that's like anybody, kids, any kid, girl or boy. As you go through life, there are some things that women can't tell you or teach you. You have to have other men in your life who who's going to tell you and who's going to show you and say, hey, this is how we do it. uh I've been so blessed to have, you know, just simple stuff. Learning how to tie a necktie, you know, just simple stuff. I had older friends who played that role in high school. Uh, don't go over there because those guys are into bad stuff. So it's so important that you have that male figure. Uh, One of the things that my uncle instilled in me is that, hey, listen, I've already walked down that road, and I want you to walk down the same road, but I don't want you to fall in the same holes that I fell into. So trying to steer young men from falling into certain pitfalls, life pitfalls, or going through the same ordeal that they can possibly avoid by just heeding advice. you know, there's a there's a joke where this robber jumps out the bush and pulls out a gun and say, "Hey, give me all your money." And the guy's like, "I don't have no money." And the robber pats him down and checks his pocket, and he's like, "Yeah, you don't have no money." So the robber, puts his hand in his own pocket, pull out $1 and push it in the guy's pocket and say, "Continue walking. My brother down there waiting for you, and he ain't gonna be so gentle." you know. So this thing we're going through is life, and it has hit the best of us hard, and sometimes we fall, and we just don't want to see the younger generation fall in the same pitfalls or fall in the same holes that we fell into. So it's important for us to just stand up and be that role model. And when you think about it too, there are men in our life, there are men probably in my uncle's lives who were that role model, who were that gap, you know, who stood in the gap and made sure that they lived their life was better. And so now it's paying it forward, passing the baton on so that the next generation, my dad would always say, you can't be like me. You have to be better than me. And so teaching young men how to do things right and teaching young men some of the stuff that we learned so that they can be better and the generation behind them can be better is so important and is so pivotal in men life.
All right. So, how can an uncle create teachable moments around responsibility, respect, and decision making?
It's a good question. Uh, I think my uncles did that by example. So a lot of things I saw them do. When I look back at it now, I'm like, wow, that was a teachable moment. And they did it, and they didn't say it was a teachable moment, but they did it. My uncles would always come and pick me up and take me along with them, like during hurricane season. You know, all the males in the family, one truck, two trucks, and they're going, they're batting up all the homes, family homes and friends' homes. And so that to me taught me how to stand in the gap. A hurricane is coming, and so we got to make sure we batten down our homes, no matter if it's your home or the neighbor's home. We take care of each other. This is what we do as men or as SMIC men. This is what we do. We take care of our village. we take care of people around us. Uh, and like I said, they did that by examples and just those small little things. My dad, my uncles, they served in church. You know, they served in church. I served in church, and now I have a nephew who's a priest. So we just passed it on. And so, like I said before, actions speak louder than words. So it's important to grab young men and just let them walk on the side of you. Uh, I had men as a teenager, a group of men in my life that we met every Thursday, and they were transparent, good, bad, or indifference. They told us what was going on in their everyday life. And I was a teenager, 17, 18, and these men were older, 30s, 40s, and they were living life. So, you know, can't pay their mortgage this month, going through family issues. They talked about it. And so that helped me understanding that when you see somebody, and we see people as kids, larger than life, superheroes, uh, but everyone have problems and issues, and we can't let that kind of dictate who we are, and we can't let that take us down that rabbit hole. Uh,
Mhm.
and so, yeah, you have to be transparent and you have to be honest, and you have to just lead by example.
Yes, being transparent. And it's I think you said this earlier, but those, you never know who's watching you. So you can't be the one that you have to live by example, as you said,
Yes.
because you can't tell them one thing, this is what you need to do, but then they see you doing something different. So,
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Because first thing kids say, "Oh, I saw X person do it. I saw a Y person do it." But why
mhm.
did you do it? Because I saw them do it. So, I got in a lot of trouble. you know, because you saw him. My parents had a thing. They have a saying in the Bahamas. Uh, Follow fashion, kill Mr. Maki Dog. So if you follow Mr. Maki Dog, you can get killed too. So what are you going to do? You can keep on following Mr. Maki Dog, but that would get you in trouble all the time. Following people down the wrong path. You know, following the wrong ideology. Just not
Right.
listening.
Hey Brian, I see Earthy out there.
Exactly.
You
You have
I want to
to
say
you have to do
Deborah, but
that.
it should be Deborah. But I like the way you
Yeah.
spell it.
Sorry.
Awesome, Carolyn. Good to see you.
What? Sorry about that. What spiritual or moral values can uncles pass down that help shape a young man's future?
I think that the best spiritual or moral pass down is teaching boys and men how to pray. Uh, Praying, having a good prayer life is very important, and it's so helpful in your spiritual walk. I mean, you have to have in order to walk through life, you have to know how to pray. You know, and you have a relationship, and knowing how to pray is then having a relationship with God. So
Mhm.
prayer is one of the most powerful things that I think we can teach young men. What to, one of the things that we can teach them, how to pray, uh, and just how to just have that relationship with God, because through many dangers, toils, and snare, you can come through if you have God with you. You know,
Yes.
so prayer, having a strong prayer life is so important. You know, uh, it has definitely kept me and guided me and protected me. Me praying and people praying for me. I had a former coworker when I came to Texas over 30 years ago. Her and I shared birthday. Her birthday was a day before mine, and before email came up, she would always call me. and happy birthday, and I'm praying for you. Uh, and that meant a whole lot, and that kept me praying.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, a strong prayer life is very, very important, and especially in these days and times where more people are turning away from the church, more people are turning away from families. Uh, we need to pray. We need to pray, and we need to teach our kids, especially young men, how to pray, because it ain't, it's not cool. It's not cool to be a praying teenager.
Mhm.
But I want to tell them, I want to tell young people, prayer changes things,
Yes.
and it, learn how to pray. And in fact, it's not about kneeling down and doing all that stuff. I'm walking, going to a conference, or I'm driving and I'm praying. I'm talking to my creator.
All
So
right.
it's not so much I'm praying as I drive. I'm praying. I'm just having a conversation with him. You know, show me where you want me to go. Tell me how to get through this. And just having a conversation. You know, so it's not that old traditional on your knees only at nighttime, or on your knees first thing in the morning. Is through the day, just whispering a prayer. Lord, I need you now. If it's any time I need you now.
What
Or
you know?
Lord, thank you. Because sometimes you're walking, and you may be going to a meeting, or late for a meeting, and you be like, Lord, I was supposed to be on time. I'm so distraught that I'm not on time, and I might not get this deal because I'm late. And you're praying, and he didn't hold up the meeting just for you. And you get there and you be like, look at God.
Okay.
Look at
He'll
God.
do it. He'll do it.
He'll do it. He'll do it. So prayer really changes things. Prayer is so important for young men to know how to do. And I'll tell you something, you know, if you get one or two persons who are your same age and y'all can pray together, that can even change. That's even a bigger thing. Praying with people, praying with your peers, praying with like-minded people. So young men, even if you don't have an uncle or older people in your life, you know, get a group of brothers who are on the right level, on the right page with you, and just pray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yes. Pray, pray, pray. So, thank you for this conversation. I think this has been helpful tonight because everybody does not have the standard role models of parents, or they come from a single parent home, but that uncle can stand in the gap. So, as we close out, tell us what steps uncles can take today to become more intentional.
Steps that uncles can take to become more intentional. I mean, the first thing is be available. Just being available is one step, because if you make yourself available, uh, and be approachable, be available and be approachable. And so you might have to take down that macho exterior, so that your niece or your nephew or whoever it is can approach you to just ask a question. Once they ask a question, okay, I got them. This person I can talk to. And so taking on that macho exterior and being available, I would say, is two of the biggest things that you can do in terms of just to be available to help young people as they walk through this journey called life. So exterior, take down that gruff exterior, put a smile on your face,
Right.
you know, stop being unapproachable, and then be available, set time aside where you can just pick up your cousins or your nieces, your nephews, and just pick them up. And just if it's just a 10-15 minute drive, around the block, around the neighborhood. Go and take a walk. Go and have a walk. Do a lunch, whether it's you go to their school or you you pick them up after school. Me and my uncles, we had a thing where on Friday afternoons after my band practice, I'd go to youth group and I'd go and sit on the wall with him. He worked at a funeral home, and so we'd sit on the wall and we just talk. And so if my band practice was early, I rush to the wall and I sit on the wall with him and we'd talk, and he just asked me questions and we just kind of chill and hang out. My other uncle, our thing was a church bus. So on Sunday after church, he would drive the bus and he'd say, "All right, Sean, who we got?" And I'd look and see who all in the bus, and I'll tell him who we get, and he'd be like, "Okay, where we going first?" And I'll plot out the route, and all of that just kept me in tune, in touch, and they were approachable. I could go to them with anything and say, "Hey, I'm dealing with this or I'm dealing with that." My uncle saw me do something and he pulled me aside and he didn't just was rough. He was, what are you doing? I saw you. Let's have a conversation. So being available and tearing down that rough exterior, so that you can be approachable is so important for young people today.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for that. I know that this conversation is one that we should share. So I didn't see any questions or anything out there, but please make sure that you share this information, because sometimes, our young people get stuck because they feel like, oh, I'm by myself. There's no one. I don't have anyone I can talk to, but you always have someone to talk to, like that uncle, maybe that mentor, but you always got that friend in God that you can talk to. Well, how do I talk to him? Hey, you talk to him just like you talk to anybody else. When that's what praying is, you just having that conversation with him, talk to him, be transparent. Lord, this is what I'm going through. I go to school and I do my best, but I had a slow start. I missed some school. I'm not getting the concept. People are making fun of me, but I just want to learn and do my best. Help me, show me, guide me how I can help myself. Just have that conversation with him. You would be amazed. He's going to respond.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. We're proof that he's there and he's changing lives, because we're proof. I am proof to that effect. Where prayer changes things, and you just have a conversation with him, he'll work it out for you.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, and thank everyone who tuned in. Make sure that you tune in on Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5:30 Central Time for Let's Talk About It. It'll be Carol Crockett of Dallas, Texas, and myself, and our topic is APP, apps, pros, or pests. And hey, this like people will probably say apps. I don't want to get on there. Yes, you do, because we found some research that amazed both of us. You want to tune in on Thursday. Some interesting stuff about these apps that we are using. So please join us.
Definitely. I know I'll be joining you.
Thank you. So I look forward to seeing you all Thursday. If I don't see you before 2 weeks from now, have a Merry Christmas, but I hope I will see you before then. And thank you again for tuning in. And thank you, Sean, as always.
My pleasure. And happy holidays to everyone too.
All righty. So building your best life is our business. That's not a slogan. It's our commitment. I love you. Be blessed. Stay safe. Good night.
Good night. Thank you for having me. Got kind of stuck in the middle of there.
Well, it doesn't want to end for some reason.
Have a good night.
All right, good night.